this is because we don't have the lesson today. I want to just go through how to plan this response for the conflict in poetry. Let's just remind ourselves what we do. The first thing we do is we identify the focus of the question, okay? Compare how poets present the effects of conflict on people in Poppies and in one other poem. So effects of conflict is what I'm gonna do. There are a bunch of poems I could think about, but the one that jumped in my mind was Remains, and it's a poem I know. So I'm gonna come back to that in a second. I'm gonna have to reread Poppies really quickly and figure out how to slice it into three, roughly, and how I'm going to get all those, that evidence about the effects of conflict. 3 days before Armistice Sunday, and poppies have already been placed on individual graves. Before you left, I pinned one on your lapel, crimped petals, spasms of paper red, disrupting a blockade of yellow bias, binding around your blazer. Sellotape bandaged around my hand, I rounded up as many white cat hairs as I could, steeled my softening of my face. I wanted to graze my nose across the tip of your nose, playing at Eskimos when we were little. I resisted the impulse to run my fingers through your gelled hair, all my words flattened, slowly melting. Okay? I think that's the first section. Oh, it's gone upside down. Sorry. Let me just... Okay. I was brave as I walked with you to the front door, threw it open, the world overflowing like a treasure chest. Let me just stop that. Okay. A manual. The world over. A split second and you were away, intoxicated after you've gone to your room, released a songbird from a cage. Where's the intoxicated? I like that one. Notice, the more you know the poem, the easier this is. Later, a single dove flew from the pear tree, and this is where it has led me, skirting the churchyards, my stomach busy. On reaching the top of the hill, I traced the inscriptions, leaned against it like a wishbone. The dove pulled freely against the sky, an ornamental stitch. I listened, hoping to hear your playground voice catching in the wind. So I'm going to go for, I've kind of broken it into three. So Roman numeral 1, 2, 3. The first thing I like is the image and the symbol of the poppy itself. And that image of spasm and the crimped petals makes me think of a wound that might have occurred. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Then I get this sensual touch imagery. She craves, I don't know why this keeps doing this, I'm sorry. She craves and misses her boy so much, and she really wants him, and that quote really captures that for me. I should try to get more, but I'm gonna stick with what I got. I have the idea of him leaving. He wants to leave. He's intoxicated, and the metaphor, well, it's really poor metaphor, really heavy-handed, of her releasing him. On the top of the hill, he's dead, I think, in my reading, and she misses him, and of course, just wanting to hear him, wanting his voice, wanting to touch him. Okay, so I've got my quotations. I need some context, so let me just do that at the bottom here. Context. Well, this is World War I, and the perspective is from a mother, and women's perspective of losing, of loss of life and loss of children. And since it's the First World War, the image of the poppy. Here, she is remembering the war, but from a different perspective. This is not protest to war, which is what some of the other World War I poems are. This is not World War I protest. Sad, the pen has gone out. Okay, so now I go to remains. I have to go into my mind for remains. And the first thing I'm going to do is context. Let's see if my purple works. It doesn't seem to be working. Let me get another purple for context. Context here is Iraq War, British U.S. invasion of Iraq, soldier trauma, guilt for occupation, I think is something you see here. Now, I'm in trouble because I have to do this from my memory, and this is where the exam gets really hard. So I'm talking and I've read the poem out loud, so I've already bled my 5 minutes of planning time. You should be ready to go, but we're not. So Roman numeral 1, I'm just going to go, what do I remember? Probably armed, possibly not. And that is repeated. So I'm really trying to use devices all the time. Rips through his life. I remember rips through his life. I remember. And the idea of seeing daylight through him, that image, because the bullet holes allows him to see that. The image, also the grotesque image of tosses his guts. And what was the other thing? There's a blood shadow, isn't there? Is that this poem? Blood shadow. Grotesque imagery. And then what do we have? The trauma. He keeps having nightmares. So even though that's not a quote, I just got to write it down. Something about the alcohol and the drugs won't flush it out. And then bloody hands. Bloody life. This is a dramatic monologue too, from his him interviewing soldiers. And essentially what I've got here now is I've got context for both poems. I was always able to pull this out, no problem, because it's actually printed on the exam. This I have to do from my memory, so this is a lot harder. But now I'm ready pretty much to start a plan. So I'm just going to stop the tape and I'll do another video.